The newer phones.
Maybe you're longer, that button deal is longer?
No, I don't even think pushing that button used to do that on the old phones.
Oh, well, it's
But I had a 7.
In other words, he's still.
This is whatever, 12. So, start to sit comfortably. And you all know you're welcome to sit on blankets. If you're more comfortable to sit on a blanket, do what you grab 2 blankets too, if that feels better for your hips. And then just close your eyes. Let yourself lengthen up through the top of your head. Feel the ease of your shoulders coming down away from your ears, and be aware of, you know, it depends on how you're sitting, but be aware of what part of your feet are touching the floor. And just feel the feet gently pressing down just a little bit, just to activate a little bit up into your hips. And then go ahead and release that. Let your eyes close as you start to watch your breath coming in and going out through your nose. See if you can feel the breath coming into your belly. If you're comfortable to come into those 3-part breaths, you can inhale into your belly, into your ribs, all the way up into your chest. And on your next exhale, release your hands on out beside you here now. And we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come right down to be in front of our hearts. Now with your hands here for a second, go ahead and interlace your fingers and let your fingers fold down. Squeeze your hands together a little bit. And then just go ahead and come back to lengthening your fingers out and letting them slowly come together again. And we'll inhale the hands right up through the midline of the body. And on the exhale, open the arms on back out and down. And now inhale your arms a little away from you and start to circle your hands around. And at first, keep your fingers long and circle both directions a couple of times so you feel the wrists and the hands. And then come into a loose fist so that you just barely let your fists come. Don't squeeze hard or anything. And then circle the hands in that loose fist. You can again go one way and then the other when you're ready. It's a little bit different feeling in the wrists. And then come back to float the arms up right out from your shoulders so you're like in a T position. And go ahead and flex your wrist a little bit here so that you're still in the fist, but they're going to face upward. And then let your fists just come down towards the ground. And then go ahead and spread your fingers nice and wide. Rotate your palms up. And let's inhale the arms up into a wide open V. So you're reaching up through the tips of the fingers and you're letting your pinkies face forward so that your shoulders are released way down away from your ears. Good. One more inhale. And on the exhale, lower the arms on down and tilt your head to the right. Let your right ear come towards your right shoulder. And if it feels good to float your left arm up a little bit higher and flex your hand, do. Don't do it if it feels like too much. And then we'll rise back up with the head, arm down, and we're going to go the other side. So left ear towards your left shoulder, and again, you can let the left arm come up a little higher. If it feels good to flex your hands a little bit, do. And then we'll come on back up, right on back up to top of the head towards the ceiling. Inhaling here, and on the exhale, let's twist to our right. Bring yourself around into a twist. Feel that twist coming from the middle of your back. Again, be aware of your feet on the floor. So if you can just gently press a little bit down into your feet. One more inhale. And on the exhale, come on back around through center and all the way into the other direction. So feeling that twist again in the middle of the back, letting yourself feel easy about where you bring your gaze so you don't feel tightness or discomfort in your neck. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come all the way on back around into center again. And let's move forward and back now with the breath. So now letting your exhales bring you forward and your inhales bring you back up. So you feel that length of your spine. It does not matter whether you go forward 2 inches or 12 inches, right? Just letting yourself feel that movement with the breath, keeping the length of your spine. And the next time you come forward, see if you can stay, again, whether it's just a little bit, or maybe you feel, if you're in your chair, you might even want to separate your feet wider and rest your elbows above your knees, or go even down more towards the ground with your hands. And on the floor, same thing, you might want to walk further out with your hands, let yourself come farther forward that way. So just be mindful, let it feel really good and easy. Let your head hang if possible to find release in your neck. And let your face go. Let your face just soften. One more breath. And then we're going to slowly make our way on back up. And we are going to switch, if you're cross-legged on the floor, you're going to switch to cross your legs. So if you need to stretch your legs out for a second between, do what feels really good, moving through your ankles. And when you're ready to come back, if you're coming back to cross-legged, bring your other leg in front so that you even out your hips a little bit there. And this time, let's see about circling our torsos a little bit, so that now you're keeping your back nice and long, and you're imagining that you're just letting yourself feel the breath carry you forward when you exhale and back when you inhale. And these circles can be really small, right? Or they can be bigger and bigger depending on you. Just enjoy feeling that movement of the torso and allowing the breath to move you. And when you get ready to go the other direction, you stop wherever feels good so that you can then just come around in the other direction with those circles. Good. And then again, the next time you come forward on this side, we're going to do the same thing. Let yourself stay forward. It depends on you how far. If you're on the floor and you like to kind of fold over your legs, you're more than welcome to do that. And give support with your hands if you need it, or just let your arms release. And just enjoy letting yourself find that release in the back and the hips. So one more breath, feeling the ribs expand as you inhale. And when you exhale, making your way on back up, take your time there as you come on back up. And bring your arms out, shake everything out a little bit. We're going to come around towards our hands and knees. So you know, if you do not want to be on your knees, don't be on your knees. Use a blanket for support, or let yourself come onto a chair with your hands. You can even do a cat-cow like this with your hands up on your thighs. You can move through your spine without putting weight on your hands really at all. Same thing if you go to your forearms like onto your chair, or if you go onto your forearms onto blocks on the floor, right? So that, be mindful, take your time, and once you start to ease your way through cat-cow, really just stop when it feels good to stop. Like if you're in a cat or a cow and you're like, oh, that just feels good, I want to stay there and let my spine adjust, then do. Or you may feel better to just continuously flow. It totally depends on you. But just see if you can picture in your mind what your spine is doing, right? How it looks as it moves sequentially, you know, that kind of snake-like movement of your spine. Imagine that your head is a part of your spine. And then we'll finish off the one we're on and come back to a more neutral spine here now. And let's bring our left foot forward and our right foot back and find our first lunge. So, to come into this lunge, you are more than welcome to have your hands up higher on a chair. You can use any height of your blocks if you want. Let yourself be mindful of that right heel reaching directly behind your foot. And remember, you do want to feel like your feet are apart, like you're on really narrow railroad tracks. Because if you line your feet up like you're on a tightrope, it puts a little torque into your hips, really. So draw your shoulders down, zip up your low belly a little bit, press the feet away from each other so you feel your hips engaging. Good, and then we're going to switch legs. Now, you don't have to take a really long stance in a lunge to get into the back of that leg back there. So, however long feels good to you to be in the lunge as far as the length. And then, again, imagine you're on those very narrow railroad tracks. And find that sense of length through the whole back of your body. If you can, again, picture your head being a part of your spine, right? Press the feet gently away from each other. Feel how your belly engages there. Good. We're going to switch legs again. So walking out lunges, that's an easy thing to do, right? If you feel pretty good to bring your left hand or forearm up to your front thigh there you can. Don't have to. You can if you want. Totally up to you. You can keep both hands down or bring a hand or both hands up. And then we're going to switch legs again. And again, once you get really comfortable in the length of your stance and the width of your stance, perhaps it would feel good to bring your right hand or forearm up to your thigh. But again, it's not necessary. Keep your hands down if you need. Think about, again, bringing the back of your head into line with your spine. Good. And then we'll release our hands down. We're going to step forward and come into standing forward bend. Very different for each one of us. So if you feel any kind of discomfort in your low back, support the way you need to keep your back long, right? Elbows above your knees is a good way to do that. Using your chair, letting yourself, even put a block in the seat of your chair if you need to, and bend your knees as much as you need. If you're fine to go ahead and fold forward over your legs, as long as it doesn't put too much into your low back, then just enjoy feeling the weight of your torso forward, opening up the backs of your legs. If you can let your head hang, enjoy feeling that weight of your head, creating space in your spine. And then follow your breaths all the way in and out. Let your inhales and exhales feel like they're equally important so that they kind of even out in length. It's not like you have to force it. You just know when you breathe in that you kind of like your breathing out to be almost the same length. You can count if that helps. And then we'll let our hands come on up to our hips. Press into our feet easily. We're going to rise on up to standing and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And as we exhale our hands down, let the top of the head feel like it's getting higher up towards the ceiling. And feel your feet equal in the floor here now. If you need to adjust, right? If you need to kind of look at your feet, make sure they're not doing something you don't think they're doing, and bring your gaze forward when you're ready, and letting yourself feel very easily coming into this mountain pose, feeling the body align itself, because that's really what our bodies want to do. So it's a lot easier to stand when you're aligned. It's easier to walk when you're aligned. So if we can, in our mountain pose, really start to enjoy that sense of the body being aligned, it kind of carries over into movement and poses, everyday life stuff too, really. So just let yourself enjoy. Feet equal in the floor. Feel that sense of the thighs gently lifting up, the tailbone reaching down towards between your heels. And then as we let our arms unfold beside us, we're going to float the arms a little bit away from us and then turn our palms forward. Spread your fingers nice and wide. Let yourself enjoy here. And then we'll inhale the arms all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, we're gonna fold forward from the hips, coming into standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find a nice long flat back. And we're gonna step our right foot back and come into lunge. Good. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So you know whether your hands are on the chair or on blocks or on the floor, you're still focusing on lengthening back through your tailbone so that you find that nice long back, feeling equal on the sides of the body. And you're more than welcome to walk a little bit if it feels very good to bend a knee at a time in your down dog too. Or maybe you like to bend both your knees, right? Take your time. And let your next inhale bring you out towards a plank. It doesn't have to be a full push-up pose. You can go to your forearms and do a forearm plank. You can put your knees down and do a half plank. You're more than welcome to bend your elbows if you like to bend your elbows a little bit, bringing them in towards your ribs. And then we're going to make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. Good. Let's bring our right foot forward from here to get into lunge. So that means if you need to put your left knee down to get into the lunge, or both knees down if you need, if you're on the floor there. And then we'll come all the way back into our standing forward bend. And get situated there with your feet. You can look at them and make sure that, you know, they're fairly equal and you're as parallel as you feel comfortable to be. And then go back right to your breaths now. Watching your breaths all the way in and all the way out. So allowing yourself to be very mindful of feeling that breath. Let your face relax and your jaw. And then from here, let's bend our knees and press equally into our feet and rise on up and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, let our hands come down to be in front of our hearts. We're going to clasp our hands, but send our palms out away from our chest, pressing into the heels of the hands here. And then float your arms up a little higher. Now, everybody's shoulders are different. You can only go as far as you can go with your shoulders. From there, bring the arms over to the right a little bit and really reach up through that left side of the body. Press up into the heel of the left hand. And if your head needs to kind of adjust, let it, right? If you need to turn to look up a little bit to let your neck be comfortable. And then come on back into center, and we're going to go the other way. Press up into the heel of that right hand. Feel that nice sense of length through the right side of the body. And then we'll come on back up to the top. We're going to bend our elbows, put our hands right behind the back of our head. Press the back of your head into your hands, but let your chin stay parallel to the floor, right? And then from here, release. Let the hands come right back to be in front of your chest, in front of your heart. And let's sit back and do a little chair pose. You don't have to go low. You can feel like you're about to sit in a really high chair, which obviously to do that, you bring your torso forward and your hips back a little bit. If you want to go deeper, you can. Feel your weight shift a little more to your heels if you'd like to. But check and make sure. See that your knees are coming out over the center of your feet. You don't want the knees to go knock-kneed, but you also don't want them to go out towards the outer edges of your feet too much, right? So one more breath there. And then press into your feet, rise up, and inhale the hands all the way up through the midline. And on the exhale, open the arms like wings as you come into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find that nice flat tabletop back. And we're going to step left foot back and come into lunge. Into our second sun salutation. Good. Press the feet away from each other. Feel how your belly engages. Inhale. And exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So making your way again back into that down dog of choice. So take your time. Let yourself feel your elbows softly hugging towards each other, like you're holding a beach ball between your elbows. And then you can feel your shoulders. You can let yourself walk a little bit in your dog. Turn your head a little bit side to side if that's okay for your neck. And then
Come on back to full dog, and next inhale, we'll come out to that plank again. Again, you can come on to forearms. You may wanna adjust and put your knees down and do a half plank. You may wanna do push-ups. If you like to, you can bend your elbows. Let yourself, even if you bend your elbows a tiny little bit and stay, that is a lot of work for your biceps. Totally up to you. Remember, yoga push-ups, elbows come in towards the ribs instead of out to the side. So you can practice a little bit of that, and then we'll come on back into downward facing dog pose again. And this time, we'll bring the left foot forward to come into lunge. Again, how you get there, totally up to you. Be mindful, draw your shoulders down away from your ears now. Let it feel like the whole body is involved in your lunge here. Not just your legs, but think about your spine. And then we'll step on forward and back into our standing forward bend. And I know, a lot of you really love to just release and fold forward and hold your own elbows. If that works for you, and that doesn't put too much pressure into your back, you can do that. But otherwise, keep support where you don't feel any kind of discomfort in your back at all. And then just watch those full deep breaths. Letting again that sense of the breaths being fairly equal in length. Even if it helps, so if it helps to count when you breathe in and think of reaching that same count when you breathe out. And that takes some adjustment sometimes. So one more nice full breath. And as we let our hands come back to our hips, we're going to press into our feet and come on up. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. We're going to unfold our arms. From here, we're going to inhale our right arm all the way up. And then just bend your elbow. Now, some of us may need to put our hand on the top of our head. Some of you maybe get to go behind your head, depending on your shoulder, or to your upper back or behind your neck. So be mindful. Take your time. For a second, just fold your left arm behind you. Let the palm face out. Kind of feel what's happening here. Just make sure you have a little engagement in your belly, right? But you don't want to tuck your tailbone up under you. You just want to feel that slight engagement in your belly. And now this part's optional. You can bring that left arm out and up. And if you want, hold on to that right elbow for a second just to give a little more release through your tricep there. And then go ahead and lower that left arm down, stretch the right arm up, and all we're going to do is just switch. So letting the right arm come down, the left arm come up. And again, this is all totally up to you, where your shoulder can let you go, right? If your elbow needs to go forward, if you can put your hand somewhere else, whatever you can do to find just a little bit of mobility in your shoulder, right, that feels good to you. One more breath there. If you can then fold that right arm. Again, if this hurts the right shoulder even, don't do this part folding the arm behind you. Keep your gaze forward. And then if you like this part, you don't have to do this part of bringing that right arm up and over and letting yourself, don't pull. It's not harsh. It's just a little bit of support, just to find a little more stretch for your tricep there. Good. And then we're going to stretch the right arm long and the left arm down. We're going to bring both arms on down beside us here now. Clasp your hands behind you. Interlace your fingers. Let your hands come just a little bit off your back. And then release them back down. And then again, inhale the hands just a little bit off of you, just if you can. And then release on down. And then we're going to release arms straight down beside us. Inhale our arms down and up overhead. And on the exhale, we're going to fold forward from the hips into standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find that flat back. And from here, we're going to walk into a downward facing dog pose. So your hands go on the surface you like to use. Take your time. And on the next inhale, we'll come on out towards that plank again. Now again, you don't have to do a plank, you can do a forearm plank. If you want to do a back bend, if you're on the floor, you can come down and come into a sphinx or a cobra, or you can come through for an up dog if you choose. And then we'll make our way back again into downward facing dog pose. So walk a little bit if you can, or bend both your knees if that feels good. You might even want to wag your tail. Just kind of let it feel good. Let your dog feel like your body is just kind of coming into a yawn, your whole body. And then we'll come on out again towards that plank. Again, you do not need to do a full plank. You do not need to do a back bend unless you choose. You can come down and do a sphinx on your forearms if you want, or you can come through for an up dog or a cobra. And then we'll make our way again back into downward facing dog pose. Good. And we're going to bring our right foot forward to find lunge from here. And then we're going to step back forward into our standing forward lift. Right to the breath. Full, deep, even breaths again. Soft face. Feeling the ribs expand as you inhale. Good. So one more breath here. And then we'll let our hands come on up to our hips as we press into our feet. We're going to rise up and inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, as our hands come down to be in front of our hearts, come into our mountain pose. So adjust how you need. If you need to kind of wiggle around a little bit, do. And if you're swaying a bit, it's fine. I mean, sometimes it feels really good to sway. And usually if you're swaying either front to back or side to side, it kind of, on its own, wants to adjust to kind of stop its center. And maybe you can feel a little more evenly based between your feet. And then let your arms come on down, unfold them down beside you, and shake out a little bit. Move through your feet, your ankles if you need to. And we're going to turn our chairs around if we're using them. And if not, have both blocks handy towards the front of your mat. We're going to step our right foot back to warrior two. So we're going to line our heels up and get that back foot. Remember, it can be about parallel to the back edge of your mat. Left foot is parallel to the long edge. And the bend of that left knee is really important. You want to make sure you're not going out beyond your toes. Take your time. And then just bring your hands to your heart. Let yourself come together with your hands into prayer hands there at center. Lift your elbows up for a second. Let yourself feel the wrists a little bit more there. And then just let your elbows melt down. Now all we're going to do is unfold our arms with the hands flexed into warrior two arms. But you've got your fingertips facing up, which is pretty intense in the bottom of the arms. So just gently press into the heels of the hands, but soften the tops of your shoulders. And then go ahead and lower so that the palms face down. For a second, bring all your fingers and your thumbs in together so they meet, right? And then do the opposite. Separate all your fingers. Let yourself really spread your fingers out nice and wide. And then we'll turn that left palm up. We're going to inhale, reach up towards the sky. Let yourself give support a little bit with your right hand back here on your leg. And on your next exhale, come into side angle, where whether you put your left hand or forearm on your chair or your thigh is up to you. And you can add the right arm if your shoulder feels good to do that, up into line with the right side of your body. And if your shoulder tells you don't do that, don't do it. All right? You can also just bring the arm right straight up from your shoulder if that's better. Take your time there. We're going to come on back to warrior two, pressing the feet away from each other as we come. Good. And now we're going to lower our arms down and we're going to find lunge. So, you might want to bring your hands to the back of the chair, be up higher. You might want to go to the seat of the chair or to your block. Really find your lunge there. And then bring your left hand onto your left hip and roll that shoulder up. Come into a twist here in your lunge. Trying to stay fairly level, right? So you're not dropping into that right side of your body. You're trying to keep your hips fairly level. What you do with this arm from here is up to you. You can bring it up if you want to. It's not necessary. And let it stay down on your hip or your low back. And then we're gonna come on back down into lunge and step forward and get our feet right underneath us. Let your knees bend quite a bit. Almost even imagine that you're letting your belly come onto your thighs. You can still keep your elbows above your knees, keep supported if you need to. But just really feel that deeper bend in your knees there. And then keep your knees bent like that as you press into your feet, rise up, but start to straighten the legs. Once you get on up to standing, inhale the arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, bring your hands right down to the in front of your heart. Coming into mountain pose. So again, you need to move around a little bit to find your mountain dew. You enjoy bringing your gaze on out like you're looking at the horizon so that you get that sense of, it's almost like you're a lot bigger than you are, that you take up a lot of space, right? At the same time, it's very easy to stand because the air around you almost feels like it's holding you up. So you're feeling light, but at the same time grounded. Right? And then we'll go ahead and let our arms come on down, shake down a little bit, walk around if you need to. We're going to do the other side. So we're going to step our left foot back this time and come into warrior two on the other side, lining up those heels. Getting that back foot about parallel to the back edge. Remember, your feet can be 18 inches apart and you can be in a warrior two. And I'm telling you, that's a hard pose right there. So, you know, you've got to adjust to where it feels good to you. Using the core strength of the body. Good, and bringing your hands then to meet in front of your heart if you can. Lift your elbows up a little bit so you're pressing your hands a little more firmly together. Good. Now we're going to open these arms with the fingertips facing up. So your hands are flexed. Fingertips face up towards the ceiling. Flex your hands. Look at the back of your right hand there. Let yourself press out into the heels of the hands. And then go ahead and lower your palms down. Bring all the fingers and the thumbs in, like really kind of squeeze them in together. And then separate all the fingers, really spread up from the thumbs to the pinkies like you're trying to reach an octave on the piano there. And then we're going to turn our right palm up and inhale, reach up towards the ceiling. Nice full breath into the right side. And on our exhale, we'll come into side angle. So you can bring your hand or your forearm to your chair or to your leg, and you can decide if you want to add the left arm up at all. You can keep your left hand on your hip. If your shoulder bothers you and you're like, well, I want to move it a little bit, you can try to play with whatever kind of movement you can find there. And we're going to make our way back into warrior two again, pressing those feet away from each other. And we'll bring our hands down. Remember, we're heading for a lunge. So if you turn to face your chair and you decide you want to stay up on the back of the chair, you can. You can go lower. You can go to the seat of the chair. You can go to block if you want, or the floor. And when you're ready to bring your right hand up, just rolling that shoulder up, finding that twist there in the middle of your back. So think about this long line. So if you were to pull all the way at the top of your head on that diagonal line upward and reach back through that inner left heel, you've got so much space in your spine. There's a little twist in the middle of your back. And then we're going to go ahead and bring our right hand back down. We're going to step forward again. Come on into your standing forward bend. And let yourself release. If you like to, again, if you like to hold your elbows, you like to feel the full weight of your torso, go for it. Otherwise, use the support that's needed for you to be comfortable so that you can really relax your upper body here. Good. One more breath. And then we'll bring our hands up to our hips. We're going to press into our feet equally as we rise up and inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, as the hands come down, see about letting your head really feel like it's floating up there. Just so easy on top of the spine there so you don't feel compressed.
So if you think, like if you walk around all day with your head feeling heavy, so my head felt heavy, if it did, that's often what happens. What just happened with my upper back, right? My lower tailbone tucks under, and then I come into that, because my head feels really heavy, right? Eventually, you know, how it all goes. So try to, if you can, even in everyday life, even, you know, walking through the grocery store. See if you can just imagine that your head is really kind of like it's floating in the clouds, so that you don't have that kind of compression onto your back. And then let yourself release. And also, I mean, it also makes you feel lighter when you walk, right? Your legs. Okay, I'm gonna turn my chair the other way, but let's get either blocks under our hands or the seat of the chair, okay? Either one you wanna use. And step our right foot back for a lunge, just briefly into a lunge. Because from the lunge, we're gonna head into pyramid pose, where we're gonna lower the right heel in and down to the floor so that both legs are straight. The right leg comes straight, the left leg is straight. There's a tiny bit of a turnout in your back leg. And the same thing in this pose. Your feet can be 12 inches, 18 inches apart, or they can be like really, it can be a long stance if that feels fine to you. But you do wanna engage your legs. You want your thighs to lift up towards your hips. So you're engaging all the muscles around your knees. And think about your spine being very lengthened, right? A really long back, nice long flat back. So a couple more breaths there. Just enjoying. And then if you feel like, well, I want to go over that leg a little more. I want to bow over my leg. If you do, you can. Like, you can bend your elbows a little bit if your hands are on the chair or the blocks. You can fold all the way over if you choose to. Totally up to you how that feels. Really keep those legs engaged. One more breath. Thighs are lifting up towards the hips. And now we're gonna bend the front knee, and we're gonna think about rising up from here to warrior one. So you might have to adjust your stance a little bit to think about coming all the way up to bring your hands to your heart and coming up into that warrior one. That's a big core move, to use your core body to come up from there. And then we're gonna release our arms and turn our feet more parallel as we face the long side of our mats. And you may want to grab your blocks as you come forward into a wide-legged forward bend. That's up to you, whether you like the floor or you like your blocks any height. And then go ahead and bend a knee at a time. And be mindful of this. Remember, you're not trying to force anything. Just let yourself easily come into your inner thighs. And if your knees bother you to bend like that, don't do it. Good. And then back, let both your knees bend a little bit here. Let yourself set up with how you want to support yourself. So if you like to stack your blocks up and get out of your hands, you can always keep your back long and get out of your hands by using your blocks for support. And then go ahead and release to where you're comfortable. I know some of you like to just go ahead and go fold and go upside down. If you do, that's fine. You can bring your hands back more towards between your feet. Knees can stay bent in this pose, right? Knees can be a little straighter. You just want to be really mindful and not feel like you're feeling any kind of pulling sensation at your hamstring attachment. That's your sitting bones, where your hamstrings attach. So full breaths all the way in and out. Go through your face. If your jaw's feeling a little tight and not cooperating, sometimes it feels good just to kind of open your mouth a little bit or separate your teeth a little bit. Even breathing through your mouth a little bit sometimes helps. And then from here, we're going to start to make our way up. So you be really mindful. If you are dizzy, take your time, and you can also get your feet closer together so that when you get up, you're more comfortable. And walk around a little bit from here. And we're going to get ready for the other side. So
Take your time. Again, you can use your blocks. You can use your chair seat. We'll step the left foot back and come into a lunge first. So, it doesn't have to be a long lunge. If any kind of lunge that feels good for you, or a releasing lunge that feels good in the back of your leg. Good. So remember to head into pyramid. Oftentimes, if you're in a long lunge, you'll have to shorten maybe a little bit to put that left heel on the floor. And the heel comes in a little bit. So instead of being directly behind your foot now, the heel comes in, that foot's turned out a little bit. Your legs are both straight and your thighs are engaging up towards your hips. So you can feel in this pyramid pose, feel your thighs lifting up. Hands are down equal, and then of course, you're finding that flat back, which is a lot of work. It means you're reaching back through your tailbone, but you have to engage your belly at the same time, which is a lot of work. So if you feel good to fold, you can bow forward over that leg however you want to or not. If you know that just puts too much pressure, don't do it. And just keep those legs working so that you're really protecting yourself because you are engaging your muscles, right? Not like you're just depending on your bones. And then we'll come up and up. Take your time as you make your way on up. Now remember, to come up to warrior one, you might have to adjust that stance because we'll bend that front knee and start to come on up with our hands to our heart, coming into that front facing warrior. Be mindful, let yourself feel your feet in the floor. The core body there, the belly, the low back, the hips holding you up. Nice, and then we'll bring our hands down. We're gonna turn sideways again. And we're gonna let ourselves come on down. Again, grab your blocks if you need. Take your time, get your feet however far apart feels good to you. Bend both your knees for a second. See if you can rest your elbows above your knees. So that might mean you kind of have to adjust your stance a little bit to rest your elbows above your knees. Lengthen back through your tailbone. And there you are back into that flat back. It's a squat. It's a good one. Gets into the legs and the hips big time. Good, and then bring your hands down either to the blocks or the floor and just walk your hands to the right, however far you want to go. You can go up all the way over to hold your foot if you want or be in front of it on your blocks. And then we'll come back through center and we're going to go the other way. So again, how far you go, totally up to you. Let yourself just stay there, enjoy. And then we'll come on back into center. And now, let's have a pretty long back here. So walk your hands out, whether they're on the floor or the blocks, so that you have a flat back, right? Your hands are underneath. You can be on fist if your hands bother you, you know that. And then just let your right hand come to your right hip and roll your shoulder up. Come into a twist right there in the middle of your back. Now don't drop your left hip. Try to stay really level right there on your sacrum so that you press your feet away from each other and you lengthen out through the top of your head. And then we'll come back down with the right hand and we're going to come up with the left hand. And if you can roll that shoulder up, put your palm down on your sacrum and press those feet away from each other a little bit. Your knees can be bent, that's fine. But just find that twist in the middle of the back and really feel your hips working in that levelness. Very nice. And then we'll come on back down. Take your time, adjust to where you want to go to stay in the pose for a few breaths. So really use whatever becomes the best for you as far as being able to let go through your upper body. So blocks under your forearms or your head even, or holding your ankles if you want, or having your hands between your feet if that feels really good. And then find those little spaces between your breaths. So let yourself feel those inhales. And at the end of your inhale, you feel a little pause before you exhale. And the same thing at the end of your exhale. You get to the end of your exhale and, there's this little slight space before you inhale. See if you could just rest easily in those little spaces between your breaths. It's almost like you're just letting go a little bit more in those little spaces. And then to rise yourself up, you may decide you want to use some help from your hands to bring yourself on up. And if you're dizzy at all, if you're upside down a while, take your time. Walk around a little bit. Good, and we are going to come back, keep your chair turned that way with the seat towards you, and have your blocks, just like we just did. And we're gonna put our hands down either on the seat of the chair or on the blocks, highest height, all right? Let the blocks be right underneath your shoulders. The same thing if you're on your hands on the chair. You can do fists, fine to do fists. If you have your chair, you can even hold the edge of the seat of the chair, which takes out that wrist crease too. And then when you're ready, get your feet maybe a little closer together than you do in mountain. Bend both your knees for a second. And then pick up your right foot. And your knees are side by side. You're standing on your left foot. And you'll kind of know right away if that's a good place for your short standing leg. So if it doesn't feel good, put the right foot down and kind of adjust the left foot to where when you pick the right foot up, you're like, okay, I can stand here. And then see if you can reach back into a warrior three. Toes are facing down towards the floor. The toes can be close to the floor. You do not have to have the leg up parallel to the floor. One more breath. And then put that right foot back down. Bend both your knees for a second. And then pick your left foot up. And again, you'll know if that right foot needs to be adjusted, right? And then see if you can extend into that warrior three. Toes are facing down. Think about your hips being level. One more breath. Good, and then bring that foot back down. We're warmed up a little bit now. Let's bend both the knees again. And we're gonna take that right foot back again into warrior three. Turn the toes down. If possible, take your left hand, put it on your low back, and see if you're level. And if you're like, well, there's no way I'm doing that, then don't do it. But if you can kind of check, you can always put the hand back down. And you can always, if you want, reach your left arm forward. If you have the chair there, you can put your hand on the back of the chair, which is an awesome way to get into warrior three. It's actually really, really nice to have the chair there. We're gonna release hand down, foot down, bend the knees a little, and now right away to the left foot, because it'll feel like the biggest relief. So you can, again, bring your right hand up to your low back if you can to kind of check your alignment. And you can decide, do you want to put the hand back down? Do you want to reach the arm forward? If you have the chair there again, you can hold the back of the chair there so that you can really get yourself into the pose with some support. Good, and if you've had entirely enough of that, bring yourself on down. Separate your feet a little wider on your mat. And you can either come to elbows above your knees here. Let yourself release that way. I know some of you really love to squat all the way down. So if it feels fine to your knees and hips to come down into a squat, you can. That might mean you want to turn your toes out a little bit and let yourself, and some people heels have to come off the floor to squat. Some people are built that the heels can stay down. And you can also squat with your feet parallel, right? And a lot of people are built that they can squat and their heels can stay on the floor when their feet are parallel. So it's all to do with how you're built. And you really just want to find what you can to release your hips and your back here. Maybe this is how we should start thinking about having a light little dinner sometimes. We can be squatted in order to really get our legs and hips. It is a very good thing to do, to work your way, whether you use a wall for a squat or your elbows above your knees. But I mean, think about it. Bring your hands to your hips and rise on up when you're ready. And separate your feet a little bit, and then just kind of swing your arms a little side to side. But when you think about it, if you can do a squat, then if you were to happen to fall and be on the ground,
probably be a lot easier for you to get up, right? That means you have the strength in your legs to do it. So, and practicing going down and up from the floor, not just when you're here, but at home is a really good thing to do. I know a lot of you garden, so, you know, you're in great shape, you know, we just want to stay that way, don't we? Let's go down to the floor. So you can move your chair out of the way. We're going to come down onto our bellies. Let yourself just release down and take your time. Take a little pillow, rest your head on your hands. And if you need to turn your head to one side, turn your head to the side if that feels better for your neck, you know? Or sometimes people don't want their hands under their head. They want to put their forehead on the mat, right? So just be easy. Once you're there and you bend your knees, let your feet circle around a little bit. Do your own little foot dance back there. So if doing windshield wiper blades feels good, you can do that. Or you can also separate your feet and then cross your ankles and then separate them again and then cross the other way at the ankles. I love to do those, right? So the feet come apart and then they just cross, and I like that. It feels really good to me, but so just play. Let yourself feel really easy, relaxed. Good. And then we're going to come on back to long legs underneath us here now. And let's come into Sphinx pose. So as close to having your elbows under your shoulders as you can. If that's too much in your back, you can come lower down and slide your elbows more towards your waist, right? But just be aware here. Just let yourself really, if you can, try to relax through the buttocks. Now you got to engage your belly a little bit, but you're trying not to tighten up the buttocks, right? And also, same with your legs. Try to let your legs feel fairly relaxed. Just breathe, enjoy that opening up through the front of the body. You're pressing into your forearms gently, and you're trying not to sink down, in other words, into, with your shoulders coming way up by your ears. Good. One more breath. And then let yourself release on down. We'll bring our arms down alongside the body. Turn your palms down towards the ground. And on your next inhale, just let your head come off the floor. Just a little bit, just so your nose gets off the ground. At least a little bit. And then slowly let your head come back down. Your forehead is down. And then inhale, try to lift both your legs up a little. And then let your legs come on down. And on the next inhale, lift your hands up so you're reaching back towards the foot, your feet behind you back there, that wall. And then bring your hands back down. And now let's inhale the head up, just the head. Now see if you can add your legs. See if that even makes you come up a little higher in your chest. And then see about your arms. So everything's up in locust. Reaching back towards the wall behind you. It doesn't have to be high. If it feels like too much, just go down lower. Keep your belly engaged, and you'll still be feeling the back body without putting pressure into your low back. Good. One more breath. And then let yourself release. We're going to shift back towards posing a child. You don't have to go all the way back. You can stay up on your forearms if it feels better to you, not to put that deep of a bend into your knees. If you can let the idea of your big toes coming together and your knees coming apart help you release a little more in the low back and the hips. And you can bring your arms wherever you choose. You can make a pillow with your hands and use them there. You can let them be soft overhead. Or if you want, you can bring your arms back alongside your legs. Good. Nice, easy breaths. Good. So one more breath. And then, come on forward. Come on to your forearms. Now you can either clasp your hands, send your pinky fingers out, or you can separate
separate your hands so that your forearms are parallel to each other, right? But we're just gonna engage by pressing down into our forearms and feeling like we're drawing our elbows towards each other a little bit, hollowing out your armpits. So that's what you can feel when you do a forearm plank. So if you feel like you want to come farther forward and make your way into a half forearm plank or even a full forearm plank, you can do that, right? And you can let yourself just enjoy feeling the engagement in the belly and the low back. Now some of you, after some of this work going on, might decide you want to try challenging a little bit into your shoulders. That's where a dolphin comes in, where you would come up to your knees like this, and then lift up your hips, and it's like down dog, only you're on your forearms instead of on your hands. It is kind of like an upside down D. It is, once you get to the point that feels amazing in your shoulders, it certainly is strengthening for the shoulders. But it's not for everybody, and it needs to be done steps along the way. And you don't ever have to do it, right? It just feels good sometimes to try a little bit. So come down when you're ready. And then we're gonna release ourselves back briefly to child's pose. And then we're gonna come around to sitting. So when you're ready to sit, take your time. We're gonna come on around, and if you need to sit on a blanket, grab a blanket and sit on it. And we're gonna get our straps. So, let's take a strap onto the ball of our right foot. And the whole idea of this forward bend here, right, and with this strap across the ball of your foot, is to not be putting stress in this leg. So if you bend this knee in, and you put the foot either lower or higher, and you feel uncomfortable in any way, just even a tweakiness in your knee or your hip, sometimes just putting a blanket or a block underneath solves it. Not everybody needs one, right? So as you think about easing your way forward, do that little motion we do when we first start class often. That exhaling a little forward and inhaling a little back up. So you think though about the coming forward is really from your low back. So it's the same thing we do when we're just sitting and coming into that exhaling our way forward and back with that long spine. Instead of coming forward with a hunched back, right? So take your time, and sometimes that lets the hamstring just go, oh, this feels kind of good, I'm gonna release a little bit. So that maybe when you come forward, you can stay forward. You can press that foot into your strap there. And you can come into the heel drawing to the ground and back. So now you are very engaged, both in your thigh, your front of your leg. You can feel your thigh tight. And you're engaged in the back of your leg. And you can come just a little bit and stay there. I mean, some of you may want to walk your hands further out towards your foot and try to draw yourself farther over the leg. Don't force it. Let it feel good. Let yourself, if possible, not tense up your face and your neck. So try to either keep the back of your head in line with your spine, or if you're like, oh, I just want to bow over, you can. If you come forward quite a bit and it feels really good, to go ahead and bow a little bit and fold a little bit. It's fine. Good. One more breath here. And then we're going to slowly come up. You can take your strap off for a second. We're going to take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, we're going to twist towards that bent leg. So twisting towards the left. And that right hand can be on the knee or the shin. It doesn't matter. Back, fingertips lightly touching the floor. Try to be aware of what that right foot is doing. Make sure the knee and toe are still facing up. And you're still pulling your heel towards the ground and back towards you. So you're still engaged. One more inhale. And on the exhale, use your belly to come on back around. We're going to go all the way in the other direction. So it won't be as deep of a twist there. Just let yourself come a little bit around. It's kind of like you're just releasing the spine a little bit from that deeper twist. One more inhale. And on the exhale, take your way back to center. And we're going to bring this knee up and out, and we're going to come to the other side. So we're going to bring the strap on the ball of the left foot. And again, you know, you're trying to get it across the base of the big toe mound and the little toe mound, right? So that just helps you when you push into the strap. It helps you feel your heel come down, and it helps you, you can look at your foot too and tell like if you're sickling your foot. If you're, you know, no, this is an exaggeration. Nobody's sitting like that, but you know, sometimes just a little bit of that play makes a huge difference. If you can even out, it can be very helpful. And again, this foot can be lower, and if, especially when you start this little movement forward and backward, if that draws something into the hip or the knee that doesn't feel quite right, then you can support it. But you can just come into that gentle, exhaling your way forward, and inhaling your way back. It doesn't need to be a big movement at all. Again, you're trying to keep your spine long. It is kind of a calming, rocking motion. And then again, the next time that you come forward, think of staying there. Keep the heel down, keep pushing into that strap there. And again, sometimes it feels like, wow, your hamstring just kind of gives it up a little bit, and you can go a little farther forward, but you don't want to push it. And if you're able, again, to let yourself feel as much release as you can in your neck and your face, right? And your jaw. And just watch the breath. Give your body time to adjust. Good. One more breath. When you come up, again, you can just take your strap off, let it be off to the side, take a nice inhale, and on the exhale, we're going to shift to our right. So again, you may want your left hand to be on your ankle or your shin. You may want to bring it over to that leg or knee. Just be mindful and feel the sitting bones reaching down. Feel that knee and toe of the left foot reaching up towards the ceiling, and engage by drawing that heel down. And it makes it easier to lengthen up when you're that engaged. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we're going to come on back around and around into the other direction. So again, keeping that length in the spine, and think about length in the back of your throat as well. Good. One more inhale. As you exhale, let that bring you back into center. Stretch those legs out for a second, shake them out a little bit. And we're going to come down onto our backs on the floor. So, should feel pretty good. Come on down. And you know what, at first, just put your feet on the floor and let yourself kind of adjust your hips a little bit. But just stay there and see how you feel. Just letting the ground really help you start to align there on the floor. You know, so you're not really doing anything actively. You're just letting yourself feel what parts of your back are touching the ground. And then start to do some easy little pelvic tilts, so that as you exhale, you can feel the tailbone curling up and the low back come down to the floor. And when you inhale, you just feel the tailbone drop back down and the back comes back into its natural curve. You know, and if you feel good to go a little beyond those pelvic tilts to a little rolling bridge, You can start with a pelvic tilt and then imagine that you're just letting one vertebra at a time come up off the floor, only as far up as you want to go. And then when you come back down, you're exhaling, and you've really got to use your belly to think about sequentially coming down through each vertebra at a time to get back down to the floor. If you don't like those, do not do them. If you like the pelvic tilt, or if you'd rather come into a regular bridge pose and stay, or use a block and do a little supported bridge if that sounds better to you. So just a minute or so here to let yourself follow what your body needs. You know, you don't have to do bridge pose for any longer than you want. So just be mindful if you do decide you're going to come out of bridge, just to bring your knees in and let yourself release your back. But keep going if you're feeling really good about what you're doing in bridge pose. I'm just going to start getting light, but you know this takes me time, so you've got time to listen to what your body needs and you were like, yeah, no, I am done everything I want to do, and I really just want to come into Shavasana. I would be happy to bring anything that might help you be comfortable. Haven't been playing about a few of them. So I will look though for hands. I know what you want. So, wave at me if you need or a blanket. No, if you need a blanket, remember, for under your head. Or if you just need a blanket for cover. Take your time, and I'm still up, so still wave at me if you think something sounds like it would help you to be more comfortable. Just release into your breath. Accept your breaths in and out. Nothing you need to do in order to breathe. Feel that sense of receiving your breaths very easily. If the breath changes in length, just let it. When your mind wanders off away from your breath, see if you can just softly come back. Remember, counting your breaths helps, or thinking a word when you inhale, a different word when you exhale, or a mantra. Helpful to me.
you're welcome to stay on your back or to roll to either or roll to your left side. And if you roll to your side, stay in a soft fetal position and just give your body a little longer if you need to. Always use your arm as a pillow if you're there. Enjoy being cradled by the ground a little bit longer. Easy when you do feel like you're okay to rise up. Let it feel like you're floating so that your head still feels rather light, and you can sit however feels comfortable for your hips so that you can stay grounded there through your sitting bones but still float up through the top of your head. Let your hands come to a very comfortable place for your shoulders so that you can feel very easily open across your chest. And watch your breath again, coming in and going out through your nose. And on your next exhale, let your hands come gently to meet there in front of your chest, in front of your own heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste.
Namaste.